Hello, you're watching Avenue X, and today let's talk about Strange Tales of Tang Dynasty Season 2. I spent $3.99 to buy the last 4 episodes when I can actually just wait 2 more days to finish watching them anyway, because I find this type of drama being so rare these days in Chinese dramaland. I think the creators really deserve that type of support. I will rank it 3 gold mine. Not because it's perfect, but compared to pretty much everything else in period dramaland, the sheer amount of information, content, the drama creators of this drama has done for these 40 episodes far exceeded my expectation and make other dramas looking pale in comparison in its production quality, and really the genuine heart you can feel from the creators, the desire to tell a good story. In this video, I will first mention a couple of points I think the drama could improve on. In an ideal world, I would wish things can be this way. Then I'm gonna talk about what I like about this drama. Let's start first with the things I hope it could improve on. Point number 1, case quality balance. It is unrealistic to hope that for all 8 cases, they're gonna be equally exciting, filled with twists and mind-bogglingly difficult for to figure out. But I think in the second series, some of them are relatively speaking weak and even not so well written. And then you have a couple of cases that are stunning. So for the 3rd season, which I think they're gonna start shooting in autumn, I wish the scriptwriter could even them out so that every case has something unique, and even if you don't like it for this aspect, you may like it for another aspect. A type of drama that every episode is equally sort of worth watching. I know it's very hard to do even in the golden days of drama, and this writer has already written 16 pretty good cases for a sizable 2-season drama. But I'm saying in an ideal world. Number 2, it's a very personal thing. I wish they could work more on costume. The drama has already, after 2 seasons and 76 episodes, created a particular style that they are adhering to. I think it's for the convenience of characterization. The drama gave each main character a particular type of hairstyle, costume style, even color palette. I think they can stick with that for sure. But a lot of those costumes only evokes a tiny bit of the Tang Dynasty essence. For example, what I'm wearing, the hair dress thing called futou, which is very iconic of Tang Dynasty. A lot of the details of costume, it's still tailored very contemporary aesthetics, not having a huge size, a lot of fabric. It tends to quite form-fitting the leading actors. I guess they're trying to make him look clean cut, but historically that type of costume did not exist. Tang Dynasty's painting and also tomb excavation will show you guys have really baggy clothes, and then they have big things they wear inside to make their shoulders and body even broader, because they've already set up the looks of the main characters. It will be really weird if the 3rd season suddenly everybody had a different style, but if they can slightly nudge things towards the more historical look of things, and then definitely not those type of clothes that Lu Yunfeng wears that comes out of nowhere. It's like a video game / imaginary design that doesn't follow any existing look of Tang Dynasty. If they can slightly just shift things a little bit towards historically accurate thing, they will be looking even more, I'd say, impressive. It's just me, okay? Maybe people don't care about that, and I would say it's not that important for this drama. The 3rd thing is a problem that I would call unlikely to get solved by any Chinese period drama. Too many repetitive and recognizable sets, because most of the drama is shot in Hengdian. For the 2nd series, because it's called Journey to the West, they did go to the west. The crew actually traveled to Dunhuang, Xinjiang, for the desert exterior shots, also for the cave painting shots. But you can tell those were the shots that they made as on the way traveling. Once they arrive at the city, when the case is about to unfold, it's actually going back to Hengdian again, just picking a different gate and shooting different streets. Because I've watched too many dramas, and I've also personally go to Hengdian, so I recognize pretty much everything and where things are shot. It gets visually really tiring. I was hoping, because the 2nd season was going to the west, they're actually going to dress up some sets that has this very strong desert, Xinjiang, mid-Asia, moving towards like the ancient Silk Road looks of things. That actually doesn't happen. If you compare, for example, the cities, the street views with other period dramas that has significant part happening in the West. Think about Love in Between. The beginning of the drama happened in the West. And even in my vague memory of what the drama appears to be, the street views in that drama looks a lot more dusty, deserty West than Journey to the West, of Strange Tales of Tang Dynasty. That obviously comes down to budget. You have to build it completely by yourself, money, time, all that. And then for the third season, they're coming back to Chang'an, which basically is Hengdian and a little bit Xiangyang. So that would mean it wouldn't be a problem in third season anymore in terms of West not looking like West enough, but then it's gonna be basically back to every street that Chinese period drama watchers are familiar with. Unless they suddenly get a huge amount of money coming in that allows them to build incredible sets and also have enough time to work on it. We are not gonna see anything that different in the third season than say what we've seen in the first season. The fourth thing that I hope the drama could improve on would be the two girls in the leading 5 to 6 people team. I hope they could do more. In the drama, they already tried their best to make them very useful. And I'd say, for example, for the Intao Cherry, in the first season, she's the one who gets least screen time and not that important. In this season, they really tried to make her more active and gave her more things to do. So I'm happy that she gets more screen time and she gets developed as a character more. There are cases where she takes the initiatives and go out and do things on her own. On the other hand, for the lead character, Xi Jun, she remains pretty much Shen Yi is functioning under the skin as the artist who do all the drawings that help them break the case. Apart from that, there's very little she could do or she is given opportunities to do in the drama. I do hope they can make her more useful and do more interesting things in the third season, and I think that's their intention too, because I've seen somewhere the director said they really want to make her having her own business once she goes back to Chang'an because she can, so why not? And that would be really cool. I can't wait to see that part of the story developing. So these are the major things I hope the drama could improve on. Now, let's talk about all the good things. So it's gonna be qua qua qua. Point number 1. Let's first quickly recap the cases. There are 8 cases in this drama, and I will rank them in my preference. Welcome to disagree with me. But I think probably the most favorite cases will be pretty much the same, and then people may rank the later ones differently. There are 2, I call them my favorites. If I have to say which one comes out even more on top, it will be the last case, which is the Gongyang the Dunhuang Cave sponsored case that I happened to work on to its set last year, although at that time I didn't know it's this case. The next case I really like is the death of the coroner, which is the second case in order of the drama. These 2 cases are pretty equal in terms of their emotional impact and how much I love them. I also categorize them as the same type of case, which is really complicated procedures of how the death happened. Multiple people got involved and how you actually break it step by step is very similar, but also in terms of the heartbreaking nature of what happened to the victim. I think most people would probably cry at the end of these 2 cases. There's another shared quality of these 2 cases, which is even though the 2 really good people died, what they believe or what they hoped the world could be or what they love in their life didn't get forgotten. It got carried on by other characters, either their families or actually our main 5-6 people panel. As an audience, I really appreciate that. So these 2 cases are my favorite. Then the next 2 cases, number 3 and 4, are equal. The last but one case, the letter from a ghost woman, and then the third case in order, which is the Blizzard lockdown hotel in the mountain. They are very similar, again, because they're both classic detective story structures. You've seen that played out in many forms in the history of detective books and films and televisions. The Letter from the Ghost is the classic revenge story of multiple people revenge on the same person. They each take a part of a case, therefore they cannot be solely responsible for the death. Therefore, nobody can actually be accused. And it's a planned thing. And the people who came into this case all did it out of sense of justice. It's not like they personally benefit from it, but they just cannot bear that such injustice exists in the world. Therefore, they will have to do something. It is actually a condensed version of this drama. I think I've talked about, led by Qiao Zhenyu and Wu Qian. Then the Blizzard Hotel story is such a classic. A group of people got trapped in a place that they can't get out because of weather. People die, and you try to figure out what happened. And it's the most old-fashioned detective story where every person has to come out and stand there and tell you why they should not be suspected as the murderer. It has enough fighting in it. It's very tightly paced, and the characters are introduced in such an interesting way. So it's the most old-fashioned detective story you can have, and it's really well done. And then I'd say the first case of the painting in the temple case, due to it's quite glorious, it's beautiful set, it's the opening of this season, it's in Chang'an. It functions in many ways. Apart from being a case, it has to introduce or reintroduce our main characters. How you link this case to the westward journey for the future 7 cases. So it functions in so many ways. And for all that, it has done a pretty good job. Then the 6th and 7th would be basically, I think, the weakest big case, which is each is still 6 episodes, but they're not that strong, would be the rhino case and the mute slaves case. So those are all happening later in the drama when they got to the West. For the rhino case, I wish they could do a little bit more on the Ami character, the girl character. Although I actually do understand why they make her not so, let's say, active, right? She's quite passive that she gets these things in her life. If she could be set up as a more complicated character, for the sake of getting exciting plot, probably I want her to be more complicated. I also want the bad guy character to, I guess, work out more so that he's not as quite silly actually at the end of it when you think about it. And then the mute slave case is watchable, okay, but I'm not super impressed by any element of it. And then it has that set, which is in every period drama now. You remember like My Journey to You, even I think Journey to Love last year, they all used that set in the mountain. It just got overused a bit. And once I see that again, I'm like, oh my god, it's that place again. Anyway, so 6 and 7 would be these two. And the last one would be the short case, which is only 2 episodes. It is the ferry case where they go into the middle of the river and encounter a huge monster. It's the lead in of the rhino case. So it's not a proper case, it's like half a case. But I actually really appreciate after I find out why they made it, which is they can actually not make it. But then after a long discussion, they decided to shoot that because that whole sequence of them on the boat and fighting against the waves and the monster is in studio, green screened, and a lot of CG work. And the director and producer did that case because they want to test and push the limit of their own company, but also these days in drama making in China, how much you can do with the limited budget you have to create water and big movement and then monster on screen convincingly enough. For a drama that is not high budget, is not sort of sci-fi. How do you actually work out the logistics of doing that type of scene? So for their own production company, they're literally doing it as an experiment. It's so like done by people who have long plans for their business. How many dramas can you honestly say these days from Chinese dramaland would ever think about doing things they know takes time, money out of their pocket, and may not yield anything? So after knowing that, I'm like, okay, I can't complain. I really appreciate what they've done. So that's point number 1. All the 8 cases recap. Point number 2, brief, simple, and actually the most important thing about this drama, but because it's so sort of well done, I don't really need to talk about it, which is performance and characters. If you like the first season, you're gonna like this one more. Like the characters in first season, you're gonna like this one more. Like their chemistry, dynamics, performances of actors, you're gonna like it more. They're still in their character, but they got better oiled, and the team really worked together into this. You can't imagine them being separate from each other type of situation. It still has a lot of fighting sequences I highly appreciate, and most of the fighting are done by Yang Xuwen and Sun Xuening, these two actresses doing those two roles. If they can, they try to do it themselves, and they really did a lot of hard work. You can probably say there's more fighting per minute thing in the second than the first season. It's still not the golden days of wuxia drama, and that's just a realistic limit with what we have these days in dramaland, but it's already so much better than other dramas in terms of design and execution, and also combined with the work of camera, so that it goes with the fight, how it captures it, what angle, what editing style it picks, how you deliver that energy, and also build up the characters in the process. It already is doing a lot better than pretty much every other period dramas I can think of, so I have nothing to complain. Third major point, I so appreciate the care for humanity and human heart and human struggles for all the characters. You can call them supporting roles, but they're more like main roles of each unit story. So many different types of people, age, gender, social status, and it's so showing you the different facades of humanity. Even when you are a tiny supporting role who really doesn't have a full storyline, and you show up for a very brief time, you still get treated with respect by the writers. You cannot say that for most of the dramas these days in China. For example, the most memorable would be the coroner and the young kid from Case 2 and Case 8. I don't think anybody who's watched season 2 would not be moved by these two characters. The unfortunate things that goes on in the world where bad things happen to good people. But then they're not forgotten. So the story gives a very warm ending, brings those human story to a very high level in both cases. You also have discussions on so many different things. For example, underrated and even discriminated against professions. In the drama, it would be being a coroner in that type of society. Yet the work is so important and necessary. And they struggle as the bottom of the society, but still they have integrity and they know the importance of what they're doing. Refer that to everything that's going on in our current world, where you still also have professions that doesn't get any notice, but they're so essential of serving the normal function of the society. It looks at imperfect people, such as the fake county, the constable. He's faking his identity and he's under almost arrest himself, but at an important moment, he would sacrifice himself for other people, and therefore our main character's team easily let him off so that he can have a second opportunity of his life. The kindness of human heart, pay and repay other people, right, that gets put into that story. I really liked it. You also have the classic, right, multiple people revenge for one injustice thing that's about this woman who get wronged. You also see the sisterhood that she has with her biological sister, go through all the difficulties for 8 years so that she can revenge her sister's death. It's just like so many these little supporting role characters who would be completely ignored and used as plot devices in other dramas and then discarded immediately. They all get their full arc and they all get respected. And even for those, you can't even say unit story main character, they would be like unit story supporting roles. For example, the Canjun Ma Meng or Suo Long, this ancient time policeman. And even the soldiers in the first episodes, who are basically guarding the temple, whatever, they cast those looking really proper for the role actors to do, and then you see them in background doing their job. Even though foreground actors are doing whatever the plot thing, nobody is like just standing there as lighting post in the background. If they're supposed to do work, they would be working. And then they all take initiatives. Clever enough, fast reacting, strong, because I'm doing responsible job that I'm charged with. I go out without actually needing to in any way serve the main characters. So they have their own world and own things they need to do. And you see that happening multiple times in the story, where even though they're so tiny overall, so little screen time, but off camera, even in the background, you know, when they're fighting, they're really efficient. They are kind of well trained and they're clever. Again, you don't really see that happening very often in a lot of other period dramas where extras are really just like punch bags and not even humans. They have no personal desires, they have no initiatives, they don't do things out of their own need at all, they're just standing there. This shows that director has very good control of the set, knows exactly what everybody should be doing at the time, and they know in the story space you're creating, the imaginative space you're creating, everybody has to be functioning realistically and rationally and making sense for a story setting. And it should be something that should be happening all the time anyway. But hey, we have such a dropped standard now, so this becomes rare. Point number 4. I've already mentioned that in my first review, which is 听劝. The whole crew just so listens to feedbacks. As the drama was airing, the writer on Weibo really feedback very quickly to people's suggestions. He would admit to, for example, people complain about the second season, again, having so many fantastic beasts and where they are happening. It's like a bit over the top. You know, it's still realistic world, yet you have all those magical creatures coming out everywhere. Is it a bit too much? Because you have a lot in first season, now you have a lot more in second season. And he would say, okay, I get it. I see why people find it's a little bit too much. We can adjust things. People would also say certain design element of cases in second season repeat what happens in the first season. And he said, yes, I noticed that too. I know it is the case. We'll try to make third season even better. They also, like I said in the first review, got actors to play roles that people suggested, such as Yu Yi and Che Baoluo. As they were airing into, I think, about 20-something episodes, Aiqi had initial schedule of stopping it. So it's not everyday airing. And usually that means it will really affect the traction and heat and performance of the drama. So they were initially going to stop airing on Tuesday and Wednesday and only do it from Thursday to Sunday. And upon the day when it should stop, the drama talked to iQIYI and convinced them to not stop airing so that it kept airing. It rarely happens in Dramaland, where a drama really would say, okay, we negotiate with the platform and let them actually get less time on air for a drama and probably less money so that the audiences are happier. And also I've heard something that's great, which is because Su Wuming, this character, and also Lu Yingfeng, they're students of Di Renjie. And Di Renjie is the famous premier and detective in Chinese history. Most iconic screen image is played by Liang Guanhua, this great actor previously, in his series of detective dramas. So he is the visual Di Renjie that Chinese people believe and having the impression of. And Yang Zhigang in an interview said, if the writer actually writes a scene for Di Renjie, probably in flashback for the third season, he will personally go and knock on the door and try to convince Liang Guanhua to come and play a scene as Di Renjie. If that happens, Di Renjie fans and Tang Gui fans both would be so happy. What more can you hope for, right? If that happens, I bet the third season will even get a higher rating and more people coming in to watch it. Let's hope that happens. So basically, this point being, this is such a responsive crew and creators, and they really want to hear what people think about their stuff and how they can improve. And then we're heading towards the third season now, so we're looking at something that probably would be the one and only drama like this in Chinese Dramaland. The final last thing would be, I appreciate the amount of effort they put into research, literature, historical, cultural related aspects and try to put it in their story. The writer of this drama, apart from actually pretty well educated, I can tell, in Chinese classic literature's writing, probably also reads a lot of ancient text, of ancient novels, ancient local record, and legends and folklores. So he's pretty well educated of the Tang Dynasty legends that are called 志怪 novel, literally means legend and monster kind of novel story. And they often have very fantastic elements and you don't have to take it seriously. While on one hand, you see a lot of monsters that get complained and the writer definitely gets the message. On the other hand, all the monsters that showed up in this drama, the rhino, the thing in underground temple that needs to get pierced by a spruce tree branch, or like the water monster. They actually all came out of somewhere in those ancient texts of legend has it, there's this animal or monster living in this place and it looks like this and it does this. It actually all comes from some source. It's not made up. So that's a really interesting way of taking advantage of existing materials in history and then put your spin on it. And then in terms of referring to historical things, apart from what I already talked about in the first review about that historical multi-sided stamp that's now sitting in the museum. For example, the monk's tongue crystallized like gem that's real and it's actually sitting in a temple in China right now. And it is of this very famous monk in Chinese history who was responsible historically for translating a lot of Sanskrit, Buddhist sutras and scriptures into, at that time, Chinese language. And you see a version of that gets played in a drama explaining the origin and how it ended up there. You have multiple food that also existed in history at that time, did got recorded in history and get again visualized and made into a real thing in the drama, such as the peace noodles that multiple times you see characters eat it, such as in the last case you have the ancient dairy fruit smoothie with ice that actually also was real in history. You know, ancient people actually really go to extreme lengths to have delicious food. And not to mention, they really did go to Dunhuang and then shot the Dunhuang cave. When I was about 8 years old, I think, I actually went there to Dunhuang once. I was too young to remember much, but I did go there. It was hot. Middle of summer, 40 degrees, desert, dry. I still remember the heat of it. Now it has become a lot better because of the roads being built and tourism development. It's definitely a lot more friendlier. If you're an avid traveler and you want to see the historical, incredible human feat that's like almost unimaginable for how did people do it thousands of years ago type of thing, should try to go to Dunhuang at least once in your lifetime. There's nothing like that anywhere else in this world. To wrap up this video, I was looking at the writers' Weibo and what he is expressing about his ideal about the story. And I highly appreciate, I really am so appreciative of the angle he's picked for this whole series. First, he's not saying when it's gonna end. It could be third season, fourth season. If it really runs out of its sort of natural course, he will stop. But he said, most typical way of writing the ending of those characters, realistically, it would almost be the tragic hero story where you have Lu Lingfeng and his student Xue Huan back to back with their knives in their hand facing hundreds of armies around them, and they're gonna die at battle. And that's like the most realistic ending for them because of historical sort of like timing and things. But then the writer is saying, I don't want to do that. Oh, thank you. And he's saying we can create a parallel universe where it is still real history, but not necessarily. And he is saying the 5 or 6 person team really should stay in a detective, weird mysteries, cases, monsters filled world of storytelling. And there, 开元盛世, which is the time, the period that the emperor's ruling gets called in Tang Dynasty history, it should always be that hopeful, with that energy of adventure. It doesn't have to be the historical time. So that's what he vaguely is suggesting, how he wants the story to go. So from that I can gather, even though if things are gonna go down as how history works out, where princess and the crown prince are gonna have this big battle, I doubt our main character panel, any of them is gonna die. They're gonna have a way of getting out of it, like getting out of the jail free card and still do what they like in this imagined story space forever. Whether it's end of season 3 or end of season 4, if they can keep making it, I don't know, but I do hope the writer can keep doing that and make sure that whenever this series of dramas end, it's gonna end with that kind, making all the fans feeling that they've been respected a lot ending. That should be everything I want to talk about as the final review of the second season of Strange Tales of Tang Dynasty. I do intend to make another video that goes into a little bit more detail about the interesting historical things that this drama actually referred to, such as really interesting coroner's techniques that you see in the drama that's actually real. It did get invented by people in Chinese history and it really worked out well. So it got recorded in history, such as food, obviously we already talked about that, such as a lot of like politics and actually why, for example, Lu Lingfeng is so proud to be Fanyang Lu Lingfeng and how it actually phased out later. So I do intend to make another video. I'll try my best to figure out the best way to do it and how to do it and when to do it, but that's my goal. If you like this drama, I guess you can subscribe to my channel so that you would not miss that video whenever it comes out. I rarely ask people to subscribe to my channel. It's like I say it every 3 years or something. Anyway, thank you for watching AvNewX. Hope you've had a good time watching this video. I'll see you in my next video. Meanwhile, live long and happy drama watching. This is like a Tang Dynasty style of greeting people. It's pretty fun. I'll show you. The Tang Dynasty style is like right hand, say good, and then left hand comes over on top, grabbing it, and just leaving your pinky out. That's how you do it in Tang Dynasty. Okay, take care. I'll see you in the next video.